Well, welcome everyone who's joined. I'm just going to give it a few more minutes and then I'll start the webinar. Okay, I think we're ready.
Awesome. Let's kick it off.
Yeah,
EzzyBills' first AI webinar. I present to you Michael, CEO of EzzyBills. Here you go.
thanks, Keita. Hello, everyone. Yeah, as the screen shows, it's our first AI webinar. So first, some introductions. So I'm Dr. Michael Fitzmaurice, CEO of EzzyBills, and I've got a PhD in computational physics, and I'm probably one of many people who can honestly say that the AI developments of the last few years is unbelievable. What's been achieved is tremendous, and what companies like EzzyBills can do now, utilizing some of the Chat GPT type of functionality, is incredible. And what we're going to show you today is, I think, is more than you would have ever seen before when it comes to AI. So there's a lot of AI products out there that do amazing things, like they can transcribe, give you summaries of meetings and all those sort of things. But I feel like we're going to the next level here, and I'm excited to show you. And Keita is our partner manager. So many of you probably know Keita. When EzzyBill started, you probably all knew me, but now you probably all know Keita more than
I'm
me.
pretty,
But I'm still
I'm
here.
I'm pretty sure I can see a few familiar names here. Like there is Simon, there is Therese. So yeah, I can see probably a few of them know me as well.
Yeah, and maybe more than me. But that's just the reality when companies get bigger, I guess. So yeah, I'm ready to go, and so I'll start. And so the first thing is what I want to do in this webinar is I want to kind of show you what EzzyBills can do and how you might be able to use it, and really you can use it. But another thing I want to emphasize is that AI is a technology which you've got to build skills to use. So there will be people who are good communicators and be able to describe things well, and they'll be able to utilize the AI very well. So there are skills using AI, and that knowledge and that the experience that will come, and eventually, maybe by our next webinar, everyone's going to be an expert. That'll be great. So firstly, let me describe what EzzyBill's AI is. So the idea here is that you can put in a description into EzzyBills describing what you want, and then EzzyBills can do that for you. It's really as simple as that. So you would describe what you want it to do, and it will go and do that for you. Before I get into the actual live examples of that, I'll just go through some of the things that I guess are required for it to work. So how does EzzyBills AI work? So the first thing is the AI understands invoices. So most of what EzzyBills does involves invoices. So it might be extracting details off invoices, getting line item details, coding an invoice, sending an invoice for approval, PO matching, statement reconciliation, all those sort of things. So the AI understands all those sort of things. It understands invoice dates, invoice totals. If you ask it, to do something with an invoice, it understands what you're asking. The other thing the AI knows is it knows EzzyBills. So when you ask it to do something, it's not just understanding what an invoice is, but it understands what EzzyBills can do with that invoice. And so when you describe a problem to it, it will be able to construct a solution. The descriptions are just plain English, so you just got to put things in plain English. And after you've done that, we basically will build a workflow. So you're probably familiar with EzzyBills and workflows. We'll build a workflow to do what you want. So the easiest way to show what I'm talking about for you guys to understand would be to give an actual live example. And so I was thinking of what example I could give, and what I came up with is an invoice splitting scenario. So this is quite common. You have an invoice, which is maybe it might be a telco invoice, it might be power invoice, and you want to split it across one or multiple account codes. So that's a common situation. And the AI is allows you to do that. You can basically get it to do what you want. So that's the live example that I'm going to show you. So this is where things get interesting. So firstly, before we do, so you can see my EzzyBill screen, I guess, Keita?
Yep. All
Yeah.
good.
So I'm sure you're probably all EzzyBills users, so you're familiar with the EzzyBills dashboard. And you're probably familiar with the basic functionality of EzzyBills, where you drag a bill into EzzyBills, and EzzyBills will read the details off the bill and then export it to whatever you've configured your workflow for. So in this case, I've got the standard zero workflow. So if you create an EzzyBill account, chose export to zero, then this is what would happen if you uploaded a bill to EzzyBills. We'll extract the details and export the bill, and it takes about 30 seconds to do that. What I wanted to show you, so if we come over here, we'll see the workflow. So this is a very standard workflow. So no account code splitting happening here. It's just straight export to zero. And of course, if we click in here, we'll see the details of the bill. So bill over, this is inside zero, bill over here, line item details all extracted, right? So let's get to the actual scenario that I want to do. So anyone who's got an EzzyBill account would have this automated task here. And there are two fields. So the first field is basically just give it a name. So this is just the name of what the task I'm creating or the workflow I'm creating. So I'm just giving it webinar. And in this scenario, let's say I just want to split a bill. So I'm just putting in a description and just to show you what we do here. So the way EzzyBills works is we've put in a description, and what we do is we basically create the solution based on your description. Now, obviously, when I say split the invoice, EzzyBills can do that, but it doesn't really know what you want it to do. So you're not giving it any information. And this is what I meant by becoming a kind of like an AI user expert. So you need to be able to describe things clearly. So just split the invoice. If you told a stranger to go and split an invoice, they have no idea what you're talking about, how to do it. So EzzyBill has generated code to do this. Now you don't have to understand the code, but you can probably read the code. But basically, it doesn't know what to do. We can't know what to do based on that. So let's put in a bit more information to describe the problem a bit clearer. So I'll just update this description. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to split the invoice on 2 rows. Now you can put 3, 5 rows, it doesn't matter. So 2 rows, and on the first row, I want 40% of the invoice total. On the second row, I want 60% of the invoice total. So the first row is for personal use. Second row is for business use. So that's sort of a reasonable description. So if you went and told someone, can you split this invoice over 2 lines, 40 and 60, then that'd be a reasonable description to give them to what you want. And you can totally do that. And EzzyBills will do that for you. It'll split it over, right? And that's actually what the code that we've generated here. But we haven't given it much information. So we've just said, split it, but we really don't know. So EzzyBills understands things like descriptions, account code, and tracking, all that sort of stuff. It really doesn't know what to put in for those fields. You've kind of just said split it. And so it's just guessing here. It doesn't really know. So that's why you got to be a bit more clear about what you want. So by that, I mean, just tell it something a bit clearer. So in this case, you would say, I want to set the description. So rather than than just personal business. Say basically set the description to personal job, and set the description to business expenses. So once again, I'm splitting 40, 60, and I'm going to, for the first line, I want the description to be personal job, and on the second line, I want it to be business expenses, right? So that's starting to look like the kind of clarity that I need to get it to do what I want. So just creating the task now. Now, for people who are not familiar with code, so this is actual code, right? This is so, but you don't need to understand the code, but I can see by looking at the code, I can see that it's actually doing the right thing. It's creating 2 rows, and it's saving the table, and it's putting in the description. Now, the purpose of the split, of course, is normally to set the account code. So that's the next thing here. So I'm just going to update the description, a bit more detail. So now I'm going to set the GL code to 300, and on the second line, it's going to be cost of goods sold. So I'm starting to get pretty close to what I want now. So I could deploy this by hitting the publish task, and it will generate the workflow, upload the workflow. It'll do that, what we asked it to do. But I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to restrict this to invoices that are Bunnings invoices. So I'm just going to put in front of this. Just going to do basically the same thing, but I'm just going to say if the supplier is a Bunnings Group Limited invoice. So and that name's coming out of my zero. Done. I create that task, have a quick look at the code, and it looks good to me. You can see it's setting the geocodes correctly, saving the table. So it's actually all done. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do a publish, and the publish takes about 5 minutes. So I'll just start the publish now, and I'll show you what happens after it finishes. So I think it's a good time to actually start with some questions. Keto, has anyone got any questions that have come
I
up?
was just gonna interrupt you that we have already started getting questions. So
Yep.
this one is interesting. So we also got one regarding webhook. I'm gonna take up that later. But
Yep.
this one's regarding this one that you're just explaining the
Yep.
way it works. So Sang asks, what if you rely on approver of the invoice to confirm the split? Can AI generate the split based off the comments from the approver? That's the question.
Yeah. So what I'm guessing is that the approver sees an invoice and decides, oh, this needs to be split this way, or this one needs to be split that
Correct.
way.
So he's
Yep.
going to put something in the
Yep.
comments.
Yep.
And then I believe Sang's asking, based on that comments,
Mm.
can the AI decide the split and split that bill?
Yeah. So what I the way I would do it is the following. So let's just come over here. So if I've got an invoice here waiting for approval, right? So I've got this invoice, and I want the next person, or I want this to split a certain way. I want to choose to split it a certain way. Then how I described it before, I said that what the AI is going to do is going to generate a workflow. So you can actually come in here during approval, and you can change the workflow. So you can say, okay, I want to switch to a different workflow. And that workflow was generated by the AI. And let's say the workflow is, a 60-40 split. Then you would come in here, let's just go, you'd come in here and change the workflow to what you want. And then it would do it. That's how that's how EzzyBills supports it, through a workflow.
I believe that answers your question, Sang. We have one more from Wendy. It says, will EasyBills pick up the tax codes for each of those GL codes?
So the tax code is when it comes to EzzyBills, the tax code is generally determined by the tax on the invoice, and that's what determines it. So if, for example, I've got an invoice, so if we have a look at you'll see that the tax code is GST on expenses. That comes from the tax of the invoice. So this had tax, each line had tax on it. So that's why the tax code is for GST on expenses. So it depends on that, not on their general ledger code. If you wanted an AI task which had tax on one line and no tax on the other line, then in the task you would describe it. Say on the first line, set tax to 0. On the second line, set tax to whatever the invoice total tax, say, and then it would do that. And then the tax, when it goes to export, it would have your taxed and untaxed. Okay, so the task has been deployed, and what I need to do now is simply switch to that task that I created, which was this webinar. I'm just going to make it the active task, right? So this was just built and deployed a few minutes ago. And this is this task that I created, which is going to do the split. So now I come over here and upload the bill. And so yeah, so this is the really the fingers crossed. Hopefully it does what I asked it to do.
I'm pretty sure it will. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it
I
will.
think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to do it. So it'll split out the invoice. So I've got a workflow now that will do that split for me. Yeah. So here is
Yeah,
the invoice
it has
and
done.
cost of goods sold for the second line. So that's what the description we put in, and that's exactly what it does. So I think that demonstrates the kind of things you can do.
So Michael, could you go back onto that AI task where we put the description, and could you just, um, you know, show the prompts that you entered so the audience would understand as to the stages that. So first thing is, I'm pretty sure the first time you try, it's not going to happen as we saw. So the first prompt was a very generic prompt, like split a bill. It's a very generic, right? So it is, you're not being specific, but when you be specific, like split a bill, in 2 categories, this is category name, this is category 2, description for category 1, description for category 2, and then when you write entire information, then the system understands and it generates the code. Now you don't necessarily have to understand the code, but I believe, Michael, how will I know when I have put this description in and I've written everything that I possibly can? Not being as a software, like I'm coming from a client's perspective, I have written everything that possibly I can tell, but how will I know whether the task that has been created is going to work or not? Is there a method which I can see here, or is it that I have to test it and see? What is it?
This is where I guess so you put in your description, you would do create and publish,
Correct.
and we'd generate the workflow. You would set the workflow as the active workflow, then you upload the bill, and you'd see what it does. That's kind of how you see what it does.
So perhaps we're opening this like initially or even now, we're giving more control to the customers. Previously, it was just us who would, whenever customers used to come to us with issues, we used to do testing, quite a few bit of testing, and then develop these rules, and we want to put it in your account. We would put it on your account, and then the extraction would work better, or any objective that we want to achieve is work better. That's what we used to do. Now we are extending this control to all the clients as well, wherein they can do test like trial and error on their own as well. Not that you will have to, you can try, and if it works, amazing. If it doesn't, you can always come to us, and you can just send an email to us, support@EzzyTalk. We would obviously assist you. Now, here are a few examples which Michael would
so
explain.
so
But before that, we have more questions, Michael. So I have like 7 questions at the moment.
Well,
So
I guess just start by saying that I've been impressed by the EzzyBill customers and what they've been doing with the AI since we've released it a few weeks ago. And here's some examples of what EzzyBill customers have been doing. So things like converting from USD to AUD. The AI can do that. These are descriptions that customers have put in to achieve what they want. For it,
Questions?
Keita?
All right. So let's start with from Sarah. So the question is, do you have to set the task as active workflow each time, or just launch it once and it will remember for the next time you upload a Bunnings exam with Bunnings invoice, the example that you've shown?
Yeah. So when it comes to workflows, so EzzyBills has the concept of the default workflow. So if something is the default workflow, then everything you upload directly to EzzyBills or you say email to the EzzyBills email account, that will go on the default workflow. For example, this is the default ezzyqa@ezzybills1.com. If I email something to that, it'll go on the default workflow. In my case right now, this webinar workflow is my default workflow, so it will go through that. Now, if you only want this to happen for Bunnings bills, then this workflow is totally okay because it's set up to only basically do anything if it's a Bunnings bill. But if you set up multiple workflows and for different suppliers, you want them to go on different workflows, then what you can do is you can come over to contacts here, and we have the ability for you to set a workflow based on the supplier. So if you look here, so I can come over here and I can set the workflow. So the webinar workflow, I can actually set it as that workflow. So now when a bill comes in, it's going to go onto that workflow. So I might have multiple bills and I can set different workflows. So I might create an AI task to split bills a certain way for this supplier and then a different task to split for this supplier. And I assign these workflows to the suppliers. And that way we can support multiple concurrent, I guess, workflows, which depend on who the supplier is. Hopefully I've answered that question.
All right, the next question. This one seems pretty simple one. Julie's asking, what about if there are multiple suppliers, that is entertainment claimable, entertainment non-claimable? I think the question is more about what if you have multiple suppliers and you want to set conditions based on each supplier? I think that's pretty much possible. Like in this test, we just the condition was if it's a Bunnings bill. I'm pretty sure you can have a description where if it's a Bunnings bill, do X, and if it's a Sydney Doodle bills, do Y, so on and so forth. So I'm pretty sure you can have you can write a description with all your conditions pertaining to each supplier, and then the system will generate a code itself, and then you can implement it. Am I correct there, Michael?
Yes, I think you need to be a little bit practical. Like if you've got, say, 5, 6, 7 suppliers, then I can imagine doing that. I'd say if the supplier is this, then do this. If the supplier is this, then do this. If you get
Correct.
a large number, then I think you would probably maybe create a couple of different workflows and then send the bills to whatever workflow you want based on the supply here. So using this technique.
Or if you or there is another option, if you just want to use one workflow and you want to treat each supplier separately, then you can use this context page to set the workflow each supplier. Like Michael, could you just click on one of the suppliers to show the options that we get there? Yeah, so if you click on a supplier, you can set a workflow here. And then on your main workflow, we will just have a switch task. Whenever the bill comes in, we identify who the supplier is. And in your context, you've already mentioned if this is the supplier, it should go on that workflow. So it will all be automatic. That one would be easier if you have a lot of conditions that goes on each supplier. If you treat each supplier differently, this would be the best way to have workflow on supplier, and then have on your main workflow, just have a switch condition. So all your bills you're essentially sending to one workflow. You don't have to send it to multiple. And then we in the background, we're just looking at the supplier and switching the workflow automatically. It's the AI getting into picture. The next one we have is we have Gareth here who's asking, could we create a workflow that looks to purchase order details, say a keyword Brock, and then get it to send that bill to a particular approval? This is an amazing example, and this is one of the specific ones. I would let Michael to answer that. So
Yep.
we're looking at a specific keyword on the purchase order detail. Let's say Brock, for
So
example, and
we had a customer who actually created a similar scenario. So what you're asking is, can EzzyBills find something on a bill and then do something based on that? Absolutely. If you said, if you find whatever in the description, line description of the table, then set supply to this or set it to this workflow or something like that, then that's exactly
or
right.
set this person as approver. That's two.
Yeah, or set the approver. Yes, whatever.
Garrett, to sum it up, I think that's exactly why this AI task is there, and such and more of such conditions can definitely be handled by this task. Once you put in the description, it will give you the task, and then it's gonna for all the others, it's gonna do nothing. For all the other bills, it's gonna process them normally. But whenever there's this proc bill comes in, it will process the way we want it to, like it will send it to approver. I hope that answers your question. Moving on to the next one. So this question is relating to the topic we just discussed before. Colin's asking, so in short, generic workflow for bulk of suppliers, and if specific instructions for some suppliers, just set it in the suppliers as demonstrated. I believe you saying set it in the contacts. Yes, that's a way too, and I would recommend that if you have 80% of your bills are go in the same flow, but 20%, depending on suppliers, you want to meet different conditions, then we can have workflows for those suppliers, and we attach them to the supplier in contacts page, and we just have a normal switch task in your normal workflow. So 100% of your bills are going to the same workflow, 80% getting processed normally. But for all the 20%, EzzyBills will just switch them to respective workflows, and then we process it on those workflows, achieving what you would want. I hope that answers your question. Coming to the next one. So Carl's asking, with the option you showed us of setting the workflow according to the supplier, does it branch off to the specified workflow, then return back to default workflow, or stay on the specified workflow? If it stays switch, we would need the export to 0 on each custom workflow. Um, that is correct. So once we switch, it's like jumping. So bill is coming on one workflow, and depending on the condition, it switches on to the second. Then it's not coming back to from where it jumped. It's just gonna follow that workflow, and we have designed that workflow the way
Yeah.
you would want to. And obviously, there will be the zero export task on that workflow as well.
Yeah.
Coming back to Carl, so this is again an interesting one. So he's asking, once we have created the task, can we edit it in future? Like if somebody needs to modify that task at a later date,
Yep.
do they have option to edit that task, or should they go with creating a new task?
Yeah. Right now, you need to create a new task, but we do have the ability. It's not been documented yet, but we do have the ability for you to basically template up the descriptions. So you might say if you might say I want to split it across 60%, 40%, then you can put in think of it as a placeholder. Instead of saying 60%, you'd put in like argument one, and instead of 40%, you'd put in argument two, and then the task gets created, and then there you can add settings to it so that depending on what those settings are, it would be able to be manipulated that way. That's how it will work. So you'll be able to build the generic or templated function and then add the arguments for your workflow. And you could have multiple workflows with different, percentage splits or different GL codes or different tracking, etc. If you want a completely different work task or major changes, then yes, you just do it.
All right, another one. It's actually an interesting one. Can I create a workflow in the AI program to form a price limit so that the approver could be alerted when they go over the price limit?
Yeah, we do support that. So I think some of our examples on our page here. So um, if you described as something like if the price of an item is greater than the sale price, then or the item price greater than the item price, then set approver or do something, send an email, whatever you want. The AI does know how to look up prices, so it can look up your price list from EzzyBills or from Zero or anywhere else, and look at the price of an item, and then it will compare the price to what's on the invoice, and it'll do that. I think so. This one here, this one's actually looking at the previous price. So we're looking at the table, and if the price on the bill is greater than the previous price, so it's looking through history, so it would look at all the prices for that item in your history, and if it finds the price for this part you're buying is greater than the previous price, then it's going to switch to a workflow, overcharge workflow, which you can put on an approval step, or it might be an email notification or something like that. So we do support the ability to basically look at previous prices. So that would go a ways towards solving your.
Okay, I think that answers your question, Chester. If you have any, like if you have a specific example, then you can just put it in the chats and I'll take it up. We have one more regarding Simpro here. For entering into Simpro, can we get EzzyBills to remove an item from the purchase order? Say it's a line item which is parts at counter, and replace it with line items from the invoice or receipt. So it removes the cost that was there beforehand, line item in the Simpro PO, and replaces with the actual items. I think we already support that. So if you're talking about there is a placeholder item in the PO, and then you want to replace it with the items on the bill, I think we already support it. We already do it. All right. So would AI be able to split an invoice to multiple tracking codes? I believe it can, just like we do it for account codes. I believe it can do the tracking codes as well, right? Tracking categories in Zero.
Yeah, absolutely. You just just change count code to tracking
Yeah, that's it.
in the description. So the automated task might have something like this here, and instead of GL code, just say tracking.
Tracking. Simple,
Tracking.
easy.
Simple as that. Just put tracking is 300 or
Whichever your tracking
whatever
values are in your
whatever you
Zero
want.
or in your accounting system, yeah, just put
Zero.
those in, and
Okay,
it should easily do that.
that'll work.
I hope that answers your question, George. Um, Sarah's asking, can you use AI to search multiple fields on an invoice for the PO number? Supplier, for example, supplier might not always put PO in the same spot on every one of their invoices. I believe as long as a supplier is tagging it, like there is a keyword, so he's mentioning its purchase order or PO as a keyword, and then he's putting in the number, then I believe the AI task, like you can have a description, go through, read the bill, and then find the word PO and then capture the value as PO number. Is that right, Michael?
Well, for something like this, the way EzzyBills works right now, we look at all sorts of keywords for, say, the purchase order, and you can add additional keywords. And when we find the numbers next to these keywords, we go and search your purchase order list to match against. So we shouldn't have too much difficulty extracting the right PO number in just the normal way of things. If it's not working, then I would send an email through to support and
Yeah,
describe your
yeah.
problem, and
Uh,
that's how I would fix that particular problem to
as
extract it.
long as I believe, Sarah, as long as there is a keyword and then the PO number follows, um, then we should be able to extract it. Um, just send us an email with the different examples that we have. Sometimes what you do is we use extraction rules, and those are related to position and where it's placed on the bill. But we will check if there is anything else that we can do about it if it's not getting extracted correctly every time. Like if the supplier is changing place on each bill, that would be difficult, I would say. Okay, so Irma is asking, can EzzyBills AI give an alert if supplier bank details have been changed from their previous bill in the invoice?
Not right now. So this comes back to this describing what the Easy Bills can do, and in your case, it's kind of describing what Zero can do. So our AI is starting to understand what Zero can do from from a perspective of like the banking details. So it can it can see what the banking details are now, and eventually you'll be able to describe, if the bank details change, then send a notification, and the AI would be able to do that. We're still building out our, you know, the functionality to be out for you to be able to describe this particular thing. Um, until then, we do audit trails. So when we export to Zero, we do look up the sort of the bank details and match them against what's on the bill. And you come across, I think it's audit report somewhere. Oh, here.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. So if you just go to apps audit report, clicked on start, then you should get a dump, a report which shows you if there were discrepancies in the bank details between the bill or what's on the bill and what's in Zero. So that's what we have right now. But yes, we'll be adding some more functionality so that we can basically you describe, say, if the bank details change, send me an email, and that's exactly what we'll be able to do. We just need to.
Hope that answers your question. And then we have one more here. So a lot of people are asking about this banking details. Can EzzyBills extract the banking details in Zero? So extract it from the bill and put it in Zero. Well, we use them for supply matching purposes, but we don't update them in your Zero, or we don't put them in your Zero. We don't, as of now, we don't want to do anything
Yeah,
with
we
the
don't.
bank details changing, or we don't want to get into that. So no, so that's not been done at the moment. I'm not sure about future. I mean, Michael might change it tomorrow. Michael, how about it?
No, my instinct is to use the details in the accounting system as the data that you use to validate against. If maybe we would have a mode where someone can decide, oh, I want to upload these bills. Can you please create the suppliers and patch in all the bank details? Then we might have a workflow to do that. Maybe I'll create a workflow to do that, um, and then we'll do that. But that'll be a special workflow where you're basically saying, I want you to create the supplier and patch in the bank details.
I think that answers your question, Ryan. Moving to the next one, and it seems complicated to me, so it's a bit difficult question here from Shane. Would it be possible with the AI to create a task that will chain workflows together based on a failure point? Example being, if the particular workflow fails, it will go automatically try another set of workflow. Or if an invoice doesn't have a PO number, it will automatically assign it to a specific workflow.
Yeah, so I'll try and address what I understand. So the AI understands how to switch between workflows, jump to workflows, all that sort of stuff. So if you can describe, in your case, you talk about a failure. So if you can describe the failure, such as in this case, it was like, if the invoice is really old, maybe that's a failure, or if it's missing a purchase order, maybe that's the failure. If you describe what it is, that leads you to want to change it, change the workflow, then you would just describe what you want and then say switch to, whatever that workflow is that you want to switch to. And that's exactly what would happen. You create that task, drop it into your default workflow. In all the cases where there are no failures, say, it just flows straight through. But as soon as there's that condition that you've set, then it will jump to a different workflow.
I hope that answers your question, Shane. Another one from Ryan again. Can the AI help identify addresses used for tracking?
The default behavior, in fact, is we would extract a delivery address off a bill. So we extract the delivery address of the bill and we go and check to see if we can find a matching tracking option um, in your zero. So if you've got a bill and the delivery address is Kingscliff and you've got a tracking option Kingscliff, then that's exactly what would happen. We would set the the tracking based on that delivery address. Um, I'm not sure. Is there any settings associated with that, Nikita, or is that just normal
Yeah, I think yes. In advanced options,
invoice
we
settings?
do
Maybe
have
there's a setting.
settings wherein we can
Maybe, yeah,
use
maybe it
setting.
might
Yeah,
might be the default. But yeah, definitely we can do that.
yeah. Um, I think I'll take this one, Michael. You can rest for next 30 seconds or a minute. You can have water or something. So Craig is asking, can we use AI rules to set a PO in Simpro as fully receipted if the invoice value matches the PO value? So Craig, the way Simpro works, so the AI task is gonna do things in EzzyBills, but the way Simpro works is there are certain conditions of Simpro that needs to be met before we export a bill or before we do anything in Simpro at all, right? So, and the way when can the PO be marked as fully received is only when everything on that PO, all the line items, all the quantities have been received. That's the only method Simpro lets us mark something as received because then it becomes complete. So the AI task is going to do things in EzzyBills, and we can amend the bills, amend extraction, set rules, set conditions in EzzyBills. But when it comes to Simpro, um, this will not impact Simpro much because when it comes to Simpro export, the conditions of the Simpro like quantity, price, item code matching, there's quite a few things in there. They have to match. Once they match, then only we can export it. So that question is more on to Simpro export, which will still be the same as we're doing it now. If everything
Yeah,
matches and we go
yeah.
export everything, then
One,
it will be received.
yeah,
Simple.
one probably when we've finished our sort of AI integration with Zero, so getting the AI to manipulate Zero, so that you can describe things like, can you tell Zero to do this? After we do that, we'll probably move on to Simpro, and some of these things will then be possible. You'll be able to describe something which you want EzzyBills to do, and you might say, can you do this in Simpro? And maybe it is something like you're saying, mark up the PO is fully receipted, and then yes, we probably would have the ability to do those sort of things once we've started to build up the functionality in the AI for interacting with Simpro.
Hope that answers your question, Craig. A few more to go, Michael. This one, and it is asking, a lot of our invoices needs to be split in two different departments. So do I create the task for multiple suppliers that need this split? Example, supplier is X, Y, and Z, then split it 50% to sales and 50% to property management. I believe the question is, multiple suppliers following the same split, 50% to sales and 50% to management. I think it's even easier, right? I'm happy to answer this one. It's even easier. When Michael showed it, yeah, he just put one supplier, like if the supplier is Bunnings, then split it like this. I believe we can handle in AI wherein if the supplier is X and Y and Z, then do this. And then EzzyBills AI will automatically do that for all those three suppliers. Michael, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah,
please.
absolutely. If it was a case of I've created this workflow to do the split, and I wanted these three suppliers to split that way, then I would just come in here and do it for each of them, and split it like that. If and that's one way to do it. Another way is, like Keita said, is describe the split and
Just describe
mention
it in
all the
the, yeah.
suppliers that you want. When you mention a supplier, you'll want to mention the supplier as this name here. Or you could say things instead of saying it's Atom Supply, you could just say starts with Atom, for example. It is an AI system where you can describe what you want. So if it starts with Bayside, or if it's got Bay in its name or anything like that, that will work. If all your suppliers that you want it to apply to have electrical services at the end of their names, then you could just say, if the supplier has electrical services in its name, then split. So,
But then it will apply to all those suppliers,
oh yeah, everything
all
that
the
says electrical
suppliers that
supply.
has
Yeah,
electrical
yeah,
services, or
that's
all
right.
the
Yeah,
suppliers that will have that keyword in their name. And then I believe if you're just asking about three specific suppliers, the easiest way for you is going to be the AI task where you just go and say, if the supplier is X and Y and Z, um, then split the bill in two lines. First one is 50%, set a description. You can also set account code and tracking as well if you want to. And then the second one is again 50% to property management. I believe that answers your question.
yep. And
Mm,
and reach out to us on in support as well, and it can definitely help
yeah, this goes
uh,
to all
everyone.
of our clients who will try something in here and they want to achieve something and it's not being achieved. Just reach out to us on support, and then we would look into it for you. Clive is asking, I'm correct in understanding that EasyBill's AI powered task generation is currently specific to zero. Well,
No,
yeah,
definitely
Michael, you.
not. Definitely not. So the AI is really it just understands easy bills. Um, so it's all about easy bills. It's all about suppliers and easy bills. It's about invoices, details, all that sort of stuff. It's not specific to zero. This was just an example I did. The AI is generic. It's not limited in any way to zero. So any workflow, any integration, same. What I was talking about with zero, I was talking about we're going to build out the functionality. So when we interact with a Simpro or a Dia or a Zero or a MyOb, we interact through an API with those. We've started building out functionality so that the AI also understands those systems, or starting with zero, so that you can describe something which you want EzzyBills AI to do related to zero. So go to zero and find me all the suppliers that are the bills that are past due or something like that. That's the sort of thing I'm talking about. But that's in addition to the basic functionality, which is just about what EzzyBills can do and the data on the invoice and that sort of stuff. So it's not specific to zero at all. It's generic.
Then we have Peter here who's asking, what about two tracking codes, head tracking code and sub tracking code, location and division?
That's totally okay. Just describe you want the tracking in this and this. That's fine. We do that routinely already.
Yeah, so header tracking and sub tracking is supported. Like you just need to mention it
Yeah, just
accordingly.
mention it. So
Yeah, that's
I
it.
think you're talking about MyOb, I believe. That's they got header tracking. I think that's what you're probably talking about. So yeah, just if you just said set tracking to this and this and this and whatever, then we should be able to find that tracking value in the header, find it in the line, and set.
I believe that's all done. We're done for the day. It was great. So, Michael, would you like to conclude the session?
Yes, thank you everyone for coming. I think it was our biggest webinar ever. So I appreciate the support, and definitely here to help. I think that there's this AI is definitely got the ability to have an impact on your work, on your companies. So reach out and ask for help if you need it. Thanks very much, and thanks for coming.
Thank you, everyone. To finish up, Carl has a great comment for us. Such an excellent product, guys, and exciting possibilities. Thanks so much for the webinar today. Well, thank you, Carl, for being here, for your time. Thank you all. That was a nice session. We'll see you soon. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.